Buongiorno a tutti.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for taking part in this meeting. There's so many of you, and I'm convinced that the quality of the speakers and the audience can make this session very fruitful. The topic we're going to tackle today is play. Play in the sense of activity, and is playing in relationship with museum and the role that institutions play in this society, today. Crisis we're currently having that obliges us to have a new vision for the future, and this is what we're going to use to trace a route. The first word I'd like to use to start the day is wonder. Are our museums able to surprise, to make us wonder? Can they create a marvelous dimension that is vital to learning and to know? Well, in terms of surprise, an important writer writes that since I had no instructions on what was necessary in order to understand in a given object, every time I used to catch a different thing in it. And this used to be a stimulus for my imagination. It made the object even more attractive than it would have been if I have had seen the same thing that was suggested by more expert adults. And he also stresses the fact that there's a gap between instruction, educational, and marvelous, wonderful. Where one is, the other one disappears. But this, of course, has to foster curiosity and the capacity to get surprised. And what we're going to do today is to explore the playful aspect of museums that can foster creative experience in the kids, in the children, both in terms of work appreciation as well as in terms of the opportunity for the visitor to produce something with his interest, and that can open up museums to new horizons. This is an history that comes from far back in the past, and kids can be pioneers in a new way to use museums. This is why, for them, the discovery rooms are created that foster learning in object exploration with stimulus for the senses and giving an interest for the kids to find new answers. In those places that were developed in the 18th century, 19th century, and 20th century, a new relationship with the audience was developed. No encyclopedic knowledge was fostered, but new ways for learning were created, and encyclopedic knowledge became experienced through play. Adults needed a longer time to get familiar with this idea, as we can read in 1961 in the Boston Children's Museum. This is what the director said. Our museums want to give the opportunity to take part in the museum, to become part of it, to change it, to play with it. So we will be pleased to listen to the presentations of today's speakers, and I'm sure they'll be able to give us new perspective and innovative ideas. This conference was started in 2010, 2013, based on the LEM project, the Learning Museum project, and this is involving 88 museums and cultural institutions for cultural heritage promotion, intercultural dialogue, and other themes. So since the European funding is no longer there, however, the project went on with the NEMO project that Miss Sani will present today. And in this logic of a confrontation, of an exchange with other museums, IDC and the Zafira Center promoted this experience that is also streamlined by a web in order to reach the highest number of people in Europe and throughout the world. A warm welcome also to the museum operators that are following us from Canada, Mexico, and several other countries in Europe and abroad. So welcome to everybody. Have a fruitful meeting. Have a fruitful session. Thank you very much for your attention. Good morning, everybody. As you can see, not just the position of my speech was moved, but also the title of my presentation was changed if compared to what you can read in the agenda. Because, as a matter of fact, I would like to widen the horizon. I would like to mention and explain what we've been doing throughout these years in terms of networking among the museum institutions, and more specifically in terms of museum education as cultural heritage institutes of the Emilia-Romagna region, together with many other European institutions and bodies. So everything started here with this publication that was done together with another European project in 2005-2007, whose purpose was very innovative at that time, and was to set the prerequisites for museums to have a particular care for children, which are sort of natural audience for educational activities in museums, but also to have a better care for adults in terms of audience. So this project was called Lifelong Learning in Museums, and based on this, we created this manual that was actually conceived as a user's handbook or manual for museum operators and educators. And it had a huge success, actually, because it was translated into several languages, of course, into Italian, but also into German, Russian, Latvian, and finally, a very recent translation into Armenian. So this handbook, it's still showing a modern character, I would say, so it's very interesting. And together with this project, the Lifelong Learning Project, we widened the network of museum operators dealing with didactics and education activities in the museums. Together with this, we started also other projects that were based on intercultural dialogue, on young people networking and volunteering in museums, in the acquisition of the 8 key skills identified by European Union in this field. So it was a sort of a chain of events, and we were lucky enough to have this extra opportunity, this additional opportunity to explore this subject more in detail. Laura Carlini described the LEM project as the most interesting project of the last few years, to 2010-2013. And the LEM network is promoted by the program in the network sector. So it's prerequisites. It has a prerequisite to involve at least 10 European countries. As a matter of fact, we had even more. At the beginning, we used to have 25 organizations from 17 countries. But then, since the natural evolution of a network is including more and more subjects, more and more bodies, we concluded with 88 organizations. So we involved 88 organizations. Now it's the end of the project, and this is the final purpose of the project. So to look at museums not just as an institution where you can learn, but a learning organization that learns from the audience and takes information from the audience, thus expanding to the outside. So the project was concluded, and as you know, when it comes to European projects, a very important element that is always required when making an application or when sending reports is sustainability. Where do these European projects end up, and what is their purpose? What are the relationships that were created during the project life? This is why we tried, in terms of sustainability, to find a way out in order for us to keep the network alive and to transfer it to a body that was able to support it for a longer time. In the meantime, you can see the LEM project reports. There were 5 work groups that in 3 years' time tackled different topics, from audience development to elderly relationship or intercultural dialogue and so on. And these 8 reports we have drafted within the project are all available online and can be downloaded for free. So going back to the LEM project, the project ended up here into the NEMO project of the Museum Network project. Here you can see the homepage of the website, where you can see a link to today's conference as well. The NEMO organization was founded in 1992, and it's a network, a sort of museum network, because it first and foremost connects museum organizations and associations, so historical associations for the English museums, for instance, or the Dutch museums, German museums. But not just that. The NEMO network also includes museums and cultural heritage institutions and umbrella organizations that are, however, bodies or organizations that connect different organizations and institutions. However, the NEMO network became a sort of reference, natural reference for our networks. Last year, there was the transfer was carried out for all of the materials and all of the documents, and here we are. The main purposes and tasks of the NEMO network are, first of all, to take requests of museums to the European Union to be representative of the museums, and therefore, first of all, it's necessary for the network to know the field and the needs and requirements museums have. What are the most important topics and subjects for the European museums, and present them to the European Union in order to influence lawmaking and regulations in the sector, and of course to shape policies and to understand funding opportunities, and to create interorganizational commissions. There are 4 main values that NEMO identified as main values, based on which case study collection was carried out lately as a good practice exchange. The 4 main values for the museums are collection value, educational value, social value, and economical value. You can find information on NEMO on the website, of course, in the Facebook page, in our newsletter, and in Twitter. The actions for the members. Starting from this year, some exchanges and learning experiences will be organized, as well as remote learning and information activities, like this conference, for instance, that is also available in streaming for people that are joining us from all over the world and from other countries of Europe. So these are the main actions that will be carried out this year. More specifically, if you have a look at what concerns us, the LEM project was transformed into a NEMO work group, so it has a dedicated page where the planned activities for this year are also displayed. So for this year, we've got exchanges, museum organization, a visit in Hamburg in May the 29th. In the NEMO annual conference, which is, of course, the occasion for the network to get together, to meet up every year It's usually organized in the first week of November. And also study visits will be organized. And all of the LEM participants and work groups will share this experience on museum and youth. So then I'm going to also explain why we got together this morning and why we met together with Alessandro and decided that this topic, the topic of play, could be related with museums. So why did we decide to connect toys and play with museums? Well, actually we decided that this could be included in the LEM workgroup activity in the NEMO network. The Zaffiria Center is very proactive in this sense and recently set up the company called Italian Toy that will be presented later on. And therefore we thought this was a natural consequence for our exchange of experiences and ideas. So we decided to work together. Thank you very much.